I followed up with some of the people in AJ's camp, and it went even further than that. He wasn't going to take part in anything. It wasn't just on field. He wasn't going to be in the building. And it all started really because that Christian Kirk deal, that kind of set the tone for these wide receivers.
Welcome back in, everybody. Derek Brooks, Derek Gunn, Rob Ellis, Sports Take, JAKIB Media YouTube Network. We appreciate everybody on the stream, everybody listening to us, and everybody in the comment section. We will continue to run through the best comments throughout the course of the show. Joining us now does a phenomenal job on ESPN.com.
Hey.
Tennessee Titans, our old friend, Turron Davenport. What's up, Turron? How you doing, man?
Hey, what's going on? This is like old time.
Yeah, man. Good to hear from you.
With each of you, I got my OG, got my breakfast on Broad partner, right, and I got my
I love it. TD outgrew us. TD outgrew us. You know, he left us, went to ESPN. That's what he does, man.
That's right. He just kept moving, man. He's climbing. He's the best.
Look at the scenery behind him. He's got the arch behind him in his house.
Right.
Look at that. He went big time on us real quick.
Listen, though, I kept my love for Philly, though. Look at this right here. Look at this.
There it is.
What?
Yes.
Yeah.
Look at
kept
you.
my love. I got to represent from where it started.
Love it, man. All right, Turron. Well, listen, it was, as you can imagine, on our end, pretty wild last night. I'm sure it made for a very busy night for you as well. There's no doubt about that. But let's start with AJ Brown and him ending up being here. Look, this is a guy who was very productive his first 3 years there. We know there was the injury last year to the chest, some drops, which we'll get into. He wasn't real happy with his contract situation. He made it very clear to you that, look, that number wasn't where it needed to be from the Titans. They seemed like they didn't want to part with him, but ultimately it's business and they make the move. Just kind of lay out how this got to this point where he ended up being an Eagle.
So there was a report that came out that he wasn't going to take part in any on-field activities. Adam Schefter released that report. I followed up with some of the people in AJ's camp, and it went even further than that. He wasn't going to take part in anything. It wasn't just on field. He wasn't going to be in the building. And it all started really because that Christian Kirk deal, that kind of set the tone for these wide receivers. And the Jaguars, the 4 years, $72 million. That set the, now you got Stephon Diggs getting his deal, Devontae Adams getting his, Tyreek Hill getting his. Now, when free agency first started, you had Chris Godwin, you had Mike Williams. These guys, 3 years, $60 million. They have the same agent, Tory Dandy, as AJ did. But a week later, that Kirk one happened, and then everything just went up. So AJ is entering the final year of his contract. He was set to make $4.5 million a year. That's, you're seeing other guys that, are in the same neighborhood as you get 20 plus million a year. 18 to 20 is like, all right, I need to be paid too. Now, mind you, he said, he wasn't going to report. And then it got to this whole time. Now, they have been talking about contracts and the deal dating back to the combine in March. So this wasn't something that just out of the blue happened. They have been working on it. They couldn't get to what they thought would be, the exact terms. So John Robinson, the GM, said he wanted to pull back and not deal with that until after free agency and the draft. But then when AJ talked about holding out, now all of a sudden the urgency was rushed to basically to yesterday being the deadline. So that's what happened over the last week or so. They were back and forth. They wanted to go in incentives up to $20 million per. AJ wanted 22, and here we are. And the Eagles, like the Jets and other teams, were monitoring the situation. They saw an opportunity. they pounced and they made the offer. And it was perfect for the Titans because they were able to get Treylon Burks, who was like, they consider him AJ Brown 2.0. He's a similar player. We could talk about him if you would like, but you know, it's just typical NFL. They got younger and cheaper.
Hey, Turron, you know, give me some insight on what AJ is like, not as a football player, but just as a locker room guy, a character guy.
Man, listen, AJ is awesome. You know, you guys remember how you know I got really close with Aguilar.
Yeah,
I had the same relationship with AJ. He's a guy that when he enters the room, it just brightens. You'll see at the presser, you know, his smile, like it's one of those smiles. You got to smile back. You know what I mean? As far as the locker room, you look at some of Mason Kinsey, one of the he was an undrafted free agent, one of the receivers. He just posted on Twitter. He said, "You were always uplifting and willing to help. I always appreciate you." That's kind of paraphrasing, but he had a very good relationship with everyone. Defensive guys love him. You know, obviously everybody on the offense loved him. The coaching staff loved him. And he was a guy that you'll see him in practice, you know, dancing and doing things to keep. There was a difference when he was on the field in practice and when he wasn't. Practice was a lot more lively. And I'm talking about like training camp, you know, where you're getting to see the whole practice. It was a lot more lively. His daughter is everything. He has a 2-year. Is she 2? She's 2. He has a 2-year-old daughter. You know, that's his everything. I love that, having 4 daughters. You guys could relate. Yeah, I'm trying to.
Everybody's got daughters.
Yes, girl dads right here.
With the fans, you know, he's really big. He actually was going to have a camp here in Nashville on June 18th. 18th. That's probably out the window now. But, you know, with the fans, like he would do Instagram Live and have students send him their report cards, you know, the grades they got. And he would pick one of them. And the one that he picked, he would send an autographed jersey and encourage them to keep up the good work. When there's a tornado that ripped through here a couple of years ago, he was out in the street walking, distributing with the Titans as a group, but distributing supplies and stuff like that. That's when he told me that he was having a daughter. Yeah, I mean, he's an awesome dude. He's going to be great in Philly. I just he cares a lot about what people think about him. And I told him when I talked to him yesterday, I said, listen, you got to shed that going to Philly. Trust me, you got to shed that. You know?
Well, you know, speaking on that, you know, the offense definitely wasn't the same with Henry being out the majority of the season, almost the entire season. You know, having one of the best receivers ever played the game come in and kind of mentor him a little bit. You know, he didn't feel as though he had, you know, one of those greatest seasons. You know, does he feel as though right now this is a new beginning for him? You know, because I mean, you know, look at it. You know, they signed Robert Woods. Now you guys have Treylon Burks. You still have Derrick Henry. Is that offense going in a positive direction or a negative direction because of he's gone now? You know, what direction is that offense going? What you would see now?
AJ Brown accounted for 23% of the receiving yards last year. There's no receiver that Ryan Tannehill targeted more than AJ Brown. Ryan Tannehill, when asked about AJ Brown, I asked him, you know, what it is he likes, why he targets him so much. He said because he's easy to throw to. He's big. You could trust him, and you know that it's either going to be him that makes the catch or nobody. And I think taking that away, he played 13 games last year. Now, mind you, the Titans were 12-5, right? They played 8 games without Derrick Henry. They were 12-5. With AJ Brown in the lineup, they were 11-2.
Wow.
You want to know the impact that AJ Brown has on the Titans? You watch the 49ers game, right? It was a Thursday night football game. He had 11 receptions. 8 of those were on third downs. If I'm not mistaken, that was the most ever on third downs in the history of football.
Wow.
This dude, when it's time, I asked him, I said, what is it about third downs? And the mindset, it's the money down.
Keep the chains moving.
He will come through when you need it. And, I mean, you get so much with him as a receiver. So this offense is they're still going to try to be the same. Treylon Burks averaged 9.4 yards in YAC, 7th in FBS last year. Similar player, but AJ Brown just has a way of the DBs don't want any parts of him.
Right.
You see them go to tackle him and they bounce off him. He, in my opinion, is right there with Deebo Samuel and anyone else as far as yards after the catch.
I think we got a deal for him too. You know, we're talking about only $100 million, and I say that's a deal. But you think about what
only $100 million.
That's Barrett money right there. That's exactly what we're paying Barrett.
Yeah.
Just being realistic, you know. I mean, you talk about guys getting 3 years, you know, almost $70 million. You know, I mean that's actually, you know, really a deal. And the draft capital we gave him a 1 and a 3. Look what they gave the Cheetah to go to Miami. I mean, we really cut off kind of easy compared to what it could have been. So I just think, you know, it just gives the Eagles now a guy that can move. Like, say what you want to say outside Jesse. He was slow as palm water towards the end of his career, but he kept the chains moving. You need that type of player to keep the chains moving. I'm glad you said it because I didn't know those stats, but that's how I looked at him. A big receiver that can wall off smaller DBs, can debo DBs, and plus he can help with the intermediate game, which will help a guy like Jalen Hurts.
2 years ago against the Ravens, it was, I think, like a 17-yard touchdown. He caught the ball. Marcus Peters tried to tackle him. Get off me. Then another linebacker tried to tackle him, another DB. He broke 5 tackles and powered his way into the end zone. That dude he's a special player. Special. They go play action, glance route across the middle. He just has a way, the confidence that he has in catching the football. Like, we're talking about just accelerating through the catch. He's not slowing down and catching it, you know. He's catching it, tucking it, and he's going. And that's a part of why he gets so much yards after the catch. And you guys you're going to see it quickly. And there's times where you're going to be like, oh, he's not going to score. He's not going to. That rascal he scored. You know.
Well, Turron, he was a great athlete. I mean, he was drafted out of high school by the Padres. He was a phenomenal two-way high school player, baseball and football. In fact, played in the Under Armour All-American game in both sports. Like, this dude
one of 4 people to do that.
Yeah, he could have played Major League Baseball. So this, you know, there is unbelievable athleticism. I got to ask you. You know, drops can be an issue sometimes.
Yes.
And he had a few last year for sure, which raised some flags. Is that just something you kind of have to live with, or was that an exception?
Concentration. That's really the main thing. He will have lapses in concentration at times. But then there's also that sense of urgency to make something happen with the ball. So he'll, you know, have it in his hands, try to turn upfield too quick and, you know, not bring the ball with him. It is something to watch. And I know Eagles fans don't respond lightly to drops, so that could be an area of contention. But I think he'll be fine. And you mentioned the playing baseball. Funny thing, because I did a story about him with baseball. He only played baseball because his dad liked the sport. But he was still good enough to get drafted. Although it was the 19th round, he still got drafted.
Yeah.
Turron, when you talk about him off the snap, is his game predicated towards more his quickness off the snap or his speed?
Quickness and power. When he first got to the Titans, he was 235 pounds. I pulled him aside. I said, bro, that's not going to get it. It's not going to work, you know. And he eventually got down to like 220 in that range. One of the things he worked on with Rob Moore, the receiver coach, was just being able to get off the ball, the release.
I played with Rob Moore.
Did you really?
Yeah, I played with him in Philly, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, Rob Moore was a real deal.
Syracuse, yep.
But so they worked on that. That is something that he could still get better on. Right. There are some times where he may disappear a bit in games. You got to get him involved. And he's one of those guys you could work all kinds of ways to do that. So to your point about off the line of scrimmage, he could play X, he could play Z, he could play the slot. He's someone that I would suggest at Z, off the line of scrimmage, at slot, moving him around. I think you want to, you know, design ways to get him the football. But he's an unselfish player. Off the line, he'll be fine.
I think he makes he's going to make Hurts better and make this offense better. But I mean, just looking at the offense and scheming him, how big a deal is it going to be for Jalen now to with the confidence level? Because they evidently they've been like this, they're old friends. Did you hear anything about that relationship between him and Hurts?
Yeah, I mean, I heard that directly from AJ. I heard it directly from Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts was a guy I really liked coming out. I'm trying to find a picture that I have of them from their high school days. But, when AJ Brown, because obviously Hurts is a year ahead of him, Hurts did a lot to try to get AJ to go to Alabama. But he instead decided that he wanted to go with DK Metcalf at Ole Miss. And they remained close. In fact, AJ was at the draft party for Hurts and vice versa. That they've had the relationship. They just threw together recently. This is a picture of them. That's Hurts. That's Hurts right there. And then
raise it up a little, Turron. Raise it up a little. There you go.
Could you send it to me so I can send it to my producer?
I'll text it to you. But that's from high school days. So, I mean, these guys, they've always been close. That's going to be good just because you have that level of trust. And then also getting the free yards. It's a term that, Mike Vrabel uses, and I think it applies because he's a guy, you throw the ball 5 yards, he'll turn it into a 67-yard touchdown. So that helps Hurts.
When you look at all the receivers that went off the board, and obviously there was a run of receivers before it got to Tennessee. Is Treylon Burks the guy that can adequately, just based on what you've seen, what you've heard from the coaching staff, that can adequately replace an A.J. Brown?
They believe so. There's a lot of similarities just as far as body type. Burks is 6'1", 225. A little bit slower than A.J., but you look at the Alabama game, he caught a pass along the numbers, and he turned it up and outran the Alabama DBs. That's doing something.
Yeah.
You look at the Texas A&M game, you see him get off the line, a little bit of hand combat along the sideline, but he accelerated through 8 hands, caught the football, and pulled away. So he does bring a similar mix just as far as ruggedness, physicality, speed, and size. Mike Vrabel is big on what he calls combat catches, or what we commonly refer to as contested catches, and that's something that Burks is a specialist at. So I think there are similarities. They feel again like they got younger and cheaper at the position. The catch radius is there. I think AJ is a better prospect coming out, than Burks is, but still, Burks is a first-round receiver. They got him, and I think he is the match.
Turron, thanks for hopping on, man. We know it was last minute.
Yeah, man.
Always
appreciate
fun catching up with you, man. And,
it's all good, man.
That's called friendship. I mean, that's my boy, man. We've been to the upper room.
Hey, listen, it goes back to training camp. I'll never forget it. Training camp 2016. Mm-hmm. You said I'm gonna throw you the hoop. You just gotta do something with it, and look, it worked. So
look, got your breakfast on Broad.
Yeah,
you ain't stopped since then.
Those early mornings were worth it, Turron.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Fighting that traffic and getting there.
We appreciate it, man. Keep up the good work. Thanks.
Thank you, man. All the best to you.
All right, that's Turron Davenport. All right, guys, we keep it rolling, man. We keep you are not getting this anywhere else. This kind of football coverage, that is for sure. We got Adam Kaplan coming up at 1 o'clock, at 2 o'clock. It's Jeff McClain. Don't fret though. Later on we will sneak in some Sixers because the Sixers came up.
Oh yeah, that's right.
That's
right.
Last night, yes, they did. Phillies are rolling too. I mean, we plethora of fun here in Philly. That's for sure. All right, Barrett Brooks, D Gunn. I'm Rob Ellis. We are Sports Take, JAKIB Media YouTube Network.